Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I have a very inspirational quote to start the day. When you are down in the dumps and think you have real problems, just remember this. Somewhere in this world, there is a Mr. Pelosi. Morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, where is Mr. Pelosi? Good morning. Love that lady. Thank you, Kate Smith. And as the moon comes over the horizon, yes, sirree. Hey, welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Big spring tire sale going on right now. And, of course, don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Call them 734-6969. Without further ado, let's go to our Pledge of Allegiance for this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, young man.
Well, how are you?
I'm rotten as in rotten.
I love to hear you on the phone. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How is that blushing bride of yours?
How are you?
I said, I'm good, but how is your blushing bride?
She says she's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, tell her it's much too quiet in the background. I wonder if she's not feeling well.
I think she did.
All right. God bless you, Dal. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Oh, nice people right there. I haven't heard from them for quite a while. I was worried about them. By golly, it's good to hear them. Hey, it's time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Whatever you need to make your house a home, they've got it right over there. And they say that, Whitney says baskets are still big this year, and they're great to put toys and blankets in, as well as adding some personality and decor to your home. So remember that, baskets, okay? Cheney Flooring and Home Design, carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, all your home decor items. And right now, here's the weather.
Temperatures are warming up, and that flood advisory is still in effect, and they're probably going to extend that through this weekend, and here's why. We are expecting way warmer temperatures for today. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 52. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 38. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be rolling in, expecting a high of 57, overnight low of 42 for Thursday night. Friday, we do have a 40% chance of rain showers in the forecast, high of 58. Could be 60 for Saturday. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Ooh, I love that. Did you hear her say the magic number 60? Maybe on Saturday. Thank you, Gina. Outstanding job. Cheney Flooring and Home Design bringing you the weather at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. Give them a call at 678-6945. Oh, my goodness sakes. We're going to take a couple of quick shots at the news here in just a moment. Stand by for that. But before we go any further, I want to remind you, yesterday, or was it the day before? What day was it, Deanne? National Pancake Day. It was yesterday, wasn't it? And it's Pancake Day every day at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 Overland in Burley, and also 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Oh, my goodness. All the different ways of enjoying delicious pancake breakfast. Oh, man. I mean, and then the sizzling skillets. Oh, absolutely fantabulous. You get in there and enjoy the food, enjoy the nice people, and just enjoy eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And next Thursday, on the 16th, we'll be over there for Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and also our thanks to Smith's Food, Handsome Mortuary in Stokes for providing our door prize drawings. Thank you very much. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. A couple of quick shots in the news this morning. Donald Trump runs into a school tour at the White House yesterday. This was kind of neat watching on the video that was on the news, and most all the news networks like NBC, CBS, ABC, they probably will not even touch this story because it shows love and affection for our president, because when these kids on the school tour noticed that it was President Trump, they started cheering and clapping, and President Trump, much to his positive credit, he stopped where he was going. He went in and visited with the kids and the school teachers and everything. It was really, really nice. Another little quick shot. Many Jewish community centers have had they're being taken very seriously, bomb threats. This is so disgusting in the United States of America, and I certainly hope they get to the bottom of who is doing this and who's issuing these threats. Get them. Nail them. And last but not least, this was just so despicable. ISIS, the lowest form of subhumanity, they're deplorable. What they did was so despicable over in Afghanistan the other day. They dressed up as doctors, and they went into this military hospital in Afghanistan, and underneath their doctor clothing, they pulled out guns and hand grenades, and they started bombing and killing. Absolutely vermin. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, for all of your heating and electrical needs, yeah. You know where to go. I don't have to tell you on the program. It's Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. They open the doors at 7:30 in the morning, stay open till 5 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. And don't forget, too, they've got all your furnace filters over there. Won't be long, and we'll be talking, hopefully, about air conditioners, too. So, anyway, stop over for all your electrical and heating and cooling needs at Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Really, really nice people. Real quick, before we get into some of the meat of the news this morning, I want to remind you about Barry Equipment and Rental, and they've got sales, service, and parts, and equipment rentals, retail equipment sales. My goodness, they're busy. They have all the equipment to get the job done right, with locations on South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and a big location at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. And they are thinking spring. They're thinking cutting the grass. They are thinking Walker lawnmowers. 0% interest for 48 months. You better check it out today at Barry Equipment and Rental, Jerome, Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. The best. All right, it's your turn. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Yesterday we mentioned, and I really hate to mention it again because I don't want to give it any credence at all, and that's the Day Without Women March. I dare say that these left-wing females, they'd better not get around women like my wife, because it could be Black Eye City, and it definitely wouldn't be on my wife Goober, I'll tell you that. These wrong, selfish ladies are nothing more than pawns for the disgusting criminal left. And they're closing down schools for their self-centered, indulgent, stupid values. I have nothing and will say nothing positive about what they're doing. I overheard an interview earlier this morning with a mother that was just absolutely livid. She was so distraught and mad at her school district and the superintendent of the school district, etc., for allowing this to go on. And she's a mother of 4. She didn't know how she was going to take off work. She works, her husband works. How she was going to take off work unannounced, basically, and take care of the kids, where they're going to go. There are 4 age brackets. I think one was 7, one was 9, one was, out of memory, I think 12, and the other one was 14. And just totally disrupting people's lives, shutting down the educational system and a lot of other jobs, where they basically have just walked off and said, we're going to show you how much you need us. Well, I'll tell you what, as an employer, if that happened, they wouldn't have a job to come back to tomorrow. Your thoughts, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to talk a little bit about unbelievable textbook in just a moment. If you haven't heard this, I urge you to listen in just a moment. It is absolutely a scary eye-opener, so stay tuned for that. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Hello, Nick Greenwald. You know, I've got to get in there. I mean, man alive, I just promised, and I said, I'm going in, I'm making an appointment, and I haven't done it yet. Oh, my, woe is me, 678-1191. Easy number to call, easy to get in there, and I'll tell you what, a great staff, and they absolutely know all the exercises and the physical therapy, sports medicine, and they've got the hydrotherapy pool, all of this to help you get back to being you. All right. You call them. Make an appointment today, please. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, serving you in Burley. Really, really nice people. When I heard this story, and I saw this story on the news, I was just taken aback. Because this textbook could show up in the United States. It could show up in other areas of the world. What it is this. ISIS, the terrorist animals, have printed and they are distributing and demanding that elementary schools in their control, and I'm sure this thing will leak out and go elsewhere. This textbook, they're demanding be used for a teaching tool. Now you're saying, well, what kind of a textbook is it? The books that are fully illustrated show the guns of war to kill and murder. They show how to use knives and machetes, etc. They show and tell how to make bombs. And most worrisome of all is they show these children in elementary school how to behead people. Lord help us. Over 1 million children have been forced to read and study these textbooks. 1 million kids. It's like they're just having a factory of evil in the school systems. And the left loons in this country, and boy, we've got a bunch of them, some even right here in Magic Valley, are crying about a Muslim ban And you know something? I'm really worried about who is here already. You know, you might laugh and say, well, that's over there in Afghanistan and Iraq and maybe over in parts of Iran, etc. Not to worry. Well, think of this insidious nature of over 1 million elementary school kids being force-fed this evil, this pathetic evil about how to make bombs, use guns to kill, maim, and destroy, and behead people. If this doesn't bother you, I question what kind of a person you are. Calls welcome 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Please give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. As I'll do a couple of commercials, and then we'll start the ball rolling this morning. Hey, Cade Rogge and the crew, Ron and Jade South, everybody, they're planning on having a big spring community sale. It's going to be on April 8th at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds out in the hayfield. Consign early. I mean, really consign right now. You call them, and the earlier you consign, the more you'll know you'll get on the handbill, the sale bill, okay? And they're taking farm equipment, livestock equipment, weapons, ammo, ATVs, everything. Call Ron Rogge at 431-6187 or Cade Rogge at 431-0074. Big community sale put on by Rogge Auctions coming up on April 8th. Okay. Your turn. Give me a call. Come on, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, and by the way, also want to acknowledge Snake River Auto Body and Paint. I brag on these guys, but it's never a brag. When you're telling the truth, it's fact. And that's exactly right. If you get a dent, a ding, or somebody decides to use your vehicle as kind of a whipping post, well, I'll tell you what, you call them at 734-5790. They will give you an estimate, schedule you for repair. They accept all insurances. They're good. They are really, really good. How do I know? I've had to use them many times, and I have been 110% satisfied. Kenny and Dan, the whole crew at Snake River Auto Body and Paint, 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls, 734-5790. All right, your turn. Come on, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Can you imagine? This is what the world is today. This is what the world is today in certain parts of the world, and hopefully it doesn't expand. Kids going to school, playing out in the schoolyard, the bell rings, they go into school. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, no. Oh, our teacher handed us a book today to show us how to make a bomb, and then also next week, oh, gee, Mommy and Daddy, we're going to learn how to behead people. How sick and distorted is our world becoming, or already is? Certainly you must have some thoughts on this, whether it's about the Day Without Women March or this topic. Please give me a call, 436-2244. 1-866-927-4587. You know, I snickered when I saw this, but it's not funny, really. Former Vice President selection for Hillary, you know, Tim Kaine. And I've said this before on the radio. It's nothing new. Whenever I saw Tim Kaine, he reminded me of a clown that had escaped from the circus without any paint on his face. Just not the brightest bulb in the fixture. Well, his brought-up son, supposedly in a good, staunch home, by the name of Woody. Well, Woody's not such a good kid. He's 24 years old, and old Woody Kaine, he got arrested for being violent at an anti-Trump rally. Saw a picture of him on the news early this morning. Boy, there's a son you can be proud of. He was a wreck. Well, it turns out the youngest son of Virginia Senator Tim Kaine was arrested in Minnesota over the weekend for rioting against President Trump. Woody Kane, 24 years of age, was arrested with 4 other people and charged with second-degree riot for his activities in St. Paul this past weekend. And what he did, they set off fireworks and smoke bombs in the capital of Minnesota, Rotunda. And a lady that was there and a Trump supporter was hit in the head by the remnants of the smoke bomb. Now, I don't know what's going to happen to these absolute sinister people like Woody Kane, but throw the book at them. Throw the book at them for what they did that not only was inside of a public place, the capital of the state of Minnesota, that was totally illegal about setting off fireworks and smoke bombs and everything else, but they injured a lady. So throw the book at the bums. Teach them a lesson. Please. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on. My goodness, normally the phone lines are lit up and we're having fun talking to each other. Give me a call quickly, 436-2244. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and I can never say enough about the quality and the knowledge that this great doctor of audiology has, and that's Christine Pickup. My goodness sake, she can find what the problem is, what it's being caused by, and help you hear better. Please call her today for a hearing screening. The number to call, 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, serving you. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't you go away. I've also got to tell everybody about a note that I can't find. Here it is. Don't forget Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 E Street in Rupert. My goodness sakes, never too early to be thinking about your Easter baskets from Sophie's. What a restaurant. What a bakery. At 530 E Street in Rupert. And they give away a dozen cookies on Monday if you answer the trivia question. Thank you, Sophie's. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I'll put in a good word for Sophie's. I got one of her baskets, and it was sure good.
Oh, they are delicious. The cookies and the cinnamon rolls and the restaurant. My goodness, it's fantastic.
It's a fun place to go.
What do you think? Before you get...
I think that we, all of us Americans, need to take a deep look into the way we've been raising our kids. And how are we reacting to what we're watching on television? If we're saying, go do it in front of our kids when somebody else is acting up, then we're giving our kids the go-ahead. And I don't know if it's parental responsibility to be a little more quiet about how you feel or what, but parents have got to start setting a better example, maybe.
Chris, I'm not going to tell you how you raise or ask you how you raised your children. It's none of my business. I will say this. I was a strict disciplinarian. I don't apologize for that. And I think, quite frankly, my son and my daughter turned out very well, thank you, and have been very, very instrumental as being community leaders in their respective communities. I think we've got to restore, and I don't care who's offended by this, I think we've got to restore the philosophy, spare the rod, spoil the child. We've got to be strict. We don't want to be friends with our kids. We want to be parents. And I think that's just a quick synopsis of what I think has to happen.
Well, and the only way it's going to happen is if you do it with your children and set the example, and then your children carry on. I don't know if we can mandate it. There is no way to do it other than that parenting needs to be taught to your children as you're, raising them. and I think it does carry over.
Yeah.
Young parents who have rules and discipline, and their kids have respect for them, those children go out and have good kids.
Yep.
But I'm afraid we have an awful lot of people, top-heavy, who are not being good parents.
Well, I agree with that, but then I can tie it into another event. And caller number 2, don't you dare hang up. I'm coming. I'll be right there. But, Chris, quickly give me an answer on this. This can also be tied to a very slovenly and trashy idea of the women walking out of school systems, walking out of jobs today to support A Day Without Women, which is a very far left, funded by Soros and other people, to basically disrupt our society. What are your thoughts on this real quick?
Well, I think that we women who know that we are important and valuable and what have you need to stay in our positions where we are right now and be examples.
Yeah.
Not walk out and leave our job and leave our employer without a paid employee. Then you better not expect a paycheck.
Amen. I say, and I was criticized the last time when they had that march for the immigrants, and I said, fire every doggone one of them. And I'm going to stand up and say the same thing again today. For the women that walked out on their employers, the women that walked out of the schools, the women that left schools districts in a lurch, the women that walked out of office jobs, the women that even some walked out of being nurses, etc. Fire each and every one of you because you absolutely acted in a juvenile manner.
Well, it's irresponsible. You signed an agreement to be an employee and do your part of the job.
Absolutely.
Be there.
Chris, always a good morning when you call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Thank you. I appreciate your patience.
Oh, no, I apologize, sir. They hung up a little while ago.
Like 3 days ago or something?
There you go.
All right. Hey, call back. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. If it were men walking out on the job, a day without men, I doubt seriously if there's going to be anything planned like that. I'd say the same thing. Fire each and every one of them. School teachers leaving their schools in the lurch. Parents being left in the lurch. Not being able to get babysitters. I mean, it's just appalling. Nurses walking off their jobs. Whatever the job, whatever the task, whatever the employment. This is complete lunacy. It's wrong. It's selfish. And it absolutely is self-centered and indulgent and has no value to our society whatsoever. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zed. Yeah, this whole thing is just getting totally out of hand. I mean, it's just chaos. Women's March in Washington, and now it's just taking a day off. Immigrants taking a day off. And like you say, a lot of those people that were fired, and but it's really sad. We've got to a country that we have to protest everything. Nobody wants to do it through the regular legislative process. But my big beef today, of course, is this Obamacare light. Pretty much agreed with most everything that's come through, but I was afraid of this, and that Paul Ryan and they were not going to dismantle Obamacare, and now we're seeing the results of that. And that it's basically, as Rand Paul has said, it's Obamacare light, and it really hasn't fixed the problem. We still have the government in control, and down the road, there's going to be one payer, and that's going to be the federal government.
Well, wait a minute.
And
wait a minute.
Companies are going to be out of business, and so really,
wait a minute.
It's been accomplished if this present bill has passed.
Yep.
And at least I'm not sure what your feeling on the thing is.
Well, let me jump in here. Adrian, let me jump in for a minute. I said yesterday that I was against the way that this thing is being pushed through and manipulated. Those are good words, pushed through and manipulated. I said that what they ought to do is take a 6-month hiatus at minimum and just back up and tell the press and tell everybody else in the United States, wait a minute, the last fiasco that was pushed down our throats by the Obama administration, and after the years that it was in effect, it caused hardship, it caused sorrow, it cost a lot of people their insurance, and it cost a lot of people a lot of money. We're not going to do the same thing. We're going to take our time and make sure we dot the I's and cross the T's. It is ridiculous for the Republicans to get my respect when they do the same doggone thing as the Democrats are doing.
Well, absolutely. It's just they take the route out of their playbook, and now they're going to, anybody that's opposed to this, conservative Republicans, and like Rand Paul has said, this thing's dead on arrival. And so, you know, as long as it's dead on arrival, then we still have the original Obamacare. And I think this is the liberal Republicans' idea, that they knew this wasn't going to be acceptable.
Well,
so they really don't want to dismantle the original Obamacare, even though they said they would, you know, opposed it. They just don't want to. They don't have the backbone. They're just jellyfish, you know, as far as don't have any gumption to do anything that would really bring about the relief on this thing.
Okay, now wait a minute. I need to wait a minute, Adrian. Wait a minute. Whoa, stop. Let me jump in on occasion. Number one, what you said is 100% right. The jellyfish and the attitude of like being sponges and just absorbing everything is absolutely asinine. It's got to come to a stop. Later on this morning, I have a young lady by the name of Carrie Lutz that has written a piece about how absolutely above us Congress is acting, and they need to come down to real life, smell the same oxygen we do, and start acting like they're working for us instead of not like they're some kingly dictator. I agree with all this, but I'll tell you something on this health care bill, Adrian. I'm going to smash it. I'm going to trash it. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Crapo and the others know that they better do their homework. Next Monday on the program, I've got a lady that knows more about the health care bills than anybody else, I think, in the United States, and that's Dr. Elena George from Atlanta, Georgia. She's going to be on. Don't miss that segment.
Oh, very good, Zeb. But people, we need to get hold of those two senators and their congressmen and just say, stop this. I would like to bring out, there's a bill that's been introduced, H.R. 861, to terminate the EPA as of the end of 18, I think, yeah, by the end of the year. And so it would terminate and turn back environmental. It would not eliminate the Clean Air Act or Clean the Water Act or anything like that, but it would stop the EPA from being a Gestapo.
Yep, I agree.
And just force them and people out of their property, as you well know, and all the things that the EPA has done.
Absolutely.
The EPA director that hasn't been an environmental activist running the EPA organization.
Got to run.
Be terminated.
All right, got to run, Adrian. God bless you for good points this morning. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Hey, caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Ag Express with great job opportunities. They're looking for drivers, full and part-time positions, and retired folks are welcome to call. Please submit your application. And they've got great benefit packages, vacation time. Oh, I'm telling you, don't pass up this opportunity. Ag Express, call Dale and Paul at 438-8886. Allen in Twin Falls, 731-2495, and Russ and Burley at 431-7175. Ag Express looking for drivers. Now, there you go. Great opportunities for you. You call Ag Express today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The Congress and the politicians back in Washington, D.C., they don't want to give up the power they've obtained and the money coming back into that country, because what is around Washington, D.C. is 6 out of the 10 wealthiest counties in the country.
That's true.
So if they turn it back to us people to where we can choose and decide and make up our own minds, then they don't have power over us.
Okay, Doug.
Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats for wanting to keep the power in their hands.
I agree with you. But, you know, somehow, and I'm not exactly sure about how to do this, Doug, but somehow we have got to let these people know en masse in both chambers, the Senate and the House. Wait a minute, fellows and ladies. When you ran for election, remember, we're the ones that are paying the bills. We're the ones that are your bosses, and we're the ones that you answer to. It's not the other way around. And for some silly, stupid reason, they are acting like they're sitting on a little throne and reach out and pat us on the head and say, now go back to your field and work hard, and we'll listen to you again some other day. I don't act like that because I'm not going to take it like that.
I'm not either. And like Adrian says, it's time to get a hold of those folks back there, remind them who pays their wages.
Absolutely.
Remind them who they work for.
Absolutely.
And remind them without us, they would not have a job. They would have to work like the rest of us out in the real world to survive.
And to change your words just a little bit, and without us and our involvement, they are still sitting in their soft, cushy chairs, which with us, we might be able to change.
Exactly.
There you go.
I think anything they come up with back there, what they've come up with, I don't agree with. I don't know all about it. But what I've heard, I've listened to people that are for it, and I've listened to them that are against it. And what they've come up with is just Obamacare under a different damn name.
Let's just say that they've kind of taken a big eraser to some things and enhanced others. Now, I don't want that. I want a complete comprehensive study from A to Z. I don't care if they print more paper than what the original affordable health care was. I want to have something that's going to work for everybody, and I don't want it thrown out on the table and say, here it is, boys and girls, come and get it.
Yep. And I've listened to a couple other people, and I'll make it real quick for that other caller, is that the insurance, if you've got health insurance, you don't have health care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a piece of paper that says, hey, I got insurance.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
They need to tackle the cost of medication and hospitalization. They need to make it to where the hospitals and the doctors and everybody post their prices. So people can price shop.
For the big reason of, and I got to run, Doug, for the big reason of, competition helping to lower prices.
Exactly.
Got you, run.
And ever since these big companies have bought up these hospitals as a for-profit deal, that's when our prices kept going up and up and up.
There you go. Doug, I got to run. I got to do a commercial quick. I thank you so much for your call, buddy. Thank you. Good man right there. Hey, don't forget, caller, I'm coming. Don't forget the Great Big Southern Idaho Women's Expo for this year, April 13th at the Burley Best Western Inn. And boy, oh boy, what a great opportunity for you, Mr. Businessman, you, Mrs. Businesswoman, to have your business represented there. Call about the booths for this great event at 679-4793. That number again, 679-4793 at the Chamber of Commerce office. Oh boy, this is going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of great women are going to be there. Don't miss the opportunity to show your business to them. And call that number, 679-4793. It's going to be April 13th at the Burley Best Western Convention Center, Southern Idaho Women's Expo. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Good morning, Zeb. I just wanted to follow up with regard to that last caller. He was on the right track. I think anything is good as far as what they're doing with regard to Obamacare. I would just say that I think as they investigated that whole boondoggle is that it's more than just health care. The first component is insurance and affordability to get insurance. Then they can address health care. But I don't agree it all needs to be in the same bill. So I would just give them some time because it's so complex. And then I don't think that they have to get it all done at once. I think the bills can be amended based on the needs, because really we don't know. Obama did this, and all of a sudden we're going to get to choose our doctors, and we're going to get to choose everything else. That was all taken away. So it's going to take a lot more time to get to get it right, and so this is a good start. I would just applaud them. Hey, at least they're doing something.
Oh, I agree with that, Dave.
So I'll listen.
No, wait a minute, Dave. Stay with me a minute. Don't hang up. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, don't go away yet. I agree with what you said, but you don't just hurry something through for the sake of saying to the American public, well, here we are. We did it in hardly any time at all to show you that Trump is going to meet his campaign promises. Baloney. I still maintain what I said earlier. Take at least a 6-month hiatus. Go over every page with a fine-tooth comb. Make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and make sure that it is a patient-friendly healthcare system, not in favor of the government, not in favor of healthcare hospitals, etc., but a patient-friendly healthcare system. It's got to be checked, it's got to be slow, and it's got to be right.
Well, I'm just glad we're started on something, and I'm not so worried about it being perfect because I like the opportunity in our legislative branch. Is what they're supposed to do is when a new need arises, you can tweak a bill or tweak legislation to fit the current needs or the future needs. And so I would just applaud that they finally got something going, and I hope that down to the end of the road that there's going to be something substantial that we can really hang our hats on at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I think you will agree with me that right there I would insert what Nancy Pelosi said that absolutely raised everybody's ire. Oh, we've got to pass this bill, and then after it's passed, we'll read what's in it. We don't want that situation again. Is he there?
I don't necessarily agree with Nancy Pelosi.
Pardon me?
I don't agree with Nancy Pelosi.
Well, I know you don't, but I'm just saying we don't want to get in that position to where we pass a bill and then read and find out what's in the doggone thing.
I agree. Thank you, Zeb.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. Call me back sometime. I'd like to visit with you about coming on the show. Caller, I've got to do a weather forecast. It'll only be about 60 seconds. Stand by. I'll be right with you. Riverview Urgent Care, 382 North Overland and Burley. Twin Falls Urgent Care, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin, and Jerome Urgent Care, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. Kyle James and all of his great staff. Minor emergencies? Yep. Major Care. They take care of you. Whether you've got a cut, whether you've got a sprain, a strain, the flu, or some kind of an infection, they can help you and they will. And they're open 7 days a week. The Urgent Care's serving you and your family. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Temperatures are warming up, and that flood advisory is still in effect, and they're probably going to extend that through this weekend, and here's why. We are expecting way warmer temperatures for today. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 52. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 38. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be rolling in, expecting a high of 57, overnight low of 42 for Thursday night. Friday, we do have a 40% chance of rain showers in the forecast, high of 58. Could be 60 for Saturday. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, I tell you what, 60 degrees. Oh, please, my beating heart, and I hope my ears heard that correctly. I'm excited. Don't forget our thanks go out to the Urgent Cares. Riverview Urgent Care Burley, Twin Falls Urgent Care in Twin Falls, and Jerome Urgent Care in Jerome. Minor emergencies, major care. Caller, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Bob. You know, we did let them know how we felt. On November 8th, we let them know how we felt. And this is the thing. I mean, when Chaffetz attacks Trump, I call Chaffetz's office and I talk to his assistants. When Ryan starts to drift to the left, I call his office. You see, and of course, you know, that's just me. I hope it has some effect. But you see, you say to yourself, you feel helpless because I call back there and I can be nice, I can be very logical, I can be as rude as hell, and I don't know that any of it matters. And so when we talk about calling our congressmen and senators, you say, you know, they just ain't never going to listen to us. Because, like Simpson every night, now this is the point I'm going to make quick. There was, when Trump was giving his speech, Mike Simpson, they were panning the audience, and Mike Simpson doing an ovation, and everybody was up except for the Democrats. Guess who was on his behind? That guy, Mr. Simpson. I'm telling you, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if I call and raise hell. He doesn't care anything. And I don't know. See, he knows he's going to get reelected. The only thing that's going to stop Simpson from getting reelected is him retiring.
Yeah. Randy, I feel the same frustration, but I really appreciate and respect you and you and many others that call this program that are very upset, and they call and they demand that their voices be heard. That's great. But then on the other hand, I'd also point this out. When they come to town for like a Lincoln Day banquet or some other activity, we all need to be there, walk up very polite and very respectful, and stick out our hand and say, hello, Mike Simpson. Hello, Mr. Crapo. Hello, Jim, Rish, everybody. I want your ear for a minute because I want you to listen to me as one of your constituents and pay attention to what I'm going to ask you, and I want your response. We need some one-on-one FaceTime with these people and let them know in no uncertain terms we're the employer.
Well, I can go to the Lincoln Day banquet in Twin because it's bigger, and it's just not that the one here isn't important, because it is. There's no disrespect. And I can get a hold of Rish, I can get a hold of Crapo, and walk up and talk to him. The fart in the wind is that Simpson. I'm telling you, when he was sitting on his behind the other day during an ovation by Trump at the joint session, I was fit to be tied. But you see, it don't matter. He sits back there, and he couldn't care less about me. He doesn't care about the roads north in Minidoka County. He doesn't care about the people's homes that are flooded. Did you know FEMA is dragging their feet about this emergency declaration here in Minicasia?
Yeah,
I'm getting off the subject.
Yeah, you are a little bit this morning, and I'm going to be doing some more segments on that particular issue, as a matter of fact, this next week. Randy, I share the same feelings to a degree that you do, and of course you and I both know, and so does my audience, that I've had my own altercations, if you will, with Mike Simpson, and I'll just leave it plain and simple. Why? Why in the world would he want to alienate a certain part of his audience and constituency by ignoring me and basically carrying on an attitude of, well, I'm holier than you and I know more than you, after that deal about 2.5 years ago regarding the Muslims? Mike Simpson was wrong then, and if he has the same philosophy, he's wrong now.
He turned out to be way off his rocker. You see, it's just like, people don't want us to build a wall, but everybody that doesn't want us to build a wall all have walls around, fences around their properties, and,
I got to run.
Here, people can drive right into our driveways if they want. We got no way of stopping them.
I got to run, Randy. I appreciate your call, buddy. Thank you. I'm late. Thank you. There's a lot of things I wished I had time to put in on this segment, but I don't. Thank you for all your calls. God bless you all. Hey, listen, Big Spring Tire Sale. I'm telling you, when the word spring, S-P-R-I-N-G, oh, man, I love that word spring. And I love that forecast where Gina sat back and said Saturday, and then she kind of waited a second, paused, and then really highlighted 60 degrees. Oh, boy. Well, there's a big spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness. Get in there today and check out all the tires for all the different driving conditions on your cars, your pickups, your SUVs. Think spring! And don't forget the best in brake service. Yeah, there's another aspect of spring. Got to have good brakes if you're going to go someplace. Well, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of that and more with the best in service. Always with all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Think spring at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Thank you, everybody. Great first hour. Appreciate it. And coming up next hour, Dave Bego from Indianapolis, Indiana. And we're going to talk politics and business. And then at 9:30, we have our legislative update with Representative Fred Wood calling in today. So be listening, and we will talk to you in about 7 minutes. Zeb at the Ranch, and right now we're going to turn it over to Wheels. Wheels, have you got my favorite tune over there, Green Onions? Can I hear a little bit of that as we go to the news this morning?
I'm not, but if you will give me, 2 seconds, I can get it on.
Okay.
We'll go again.
All right, 2 seconds. I'm going to count 1001, 1002. Bingo! Are you there?
I am. Here, give me 1 moment.
Oh, wait. Now it's a moment. A minute ago it was 2 seconds. Now we got a moment. Then pretty quick it's going to be, give me 30 seconds. Okay. Hey, by the way, Lunch Bunch. I know, buddy. The Lunch Bunch coming up next week on March 16th. Don't you miss it at America's Diner, Denny's. Wheels, take it away. I was wondering how long I could leave the music go and worry Wheels that maybe I was gone or I missed my cue. I thought, well, that's long enough. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho,
Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. All you have to do is just call that number and say, you know what, we'd like to get on the route service, and once a week have your big trucks come by, pick up our garbage. It's gone. It's out of there. It's that easy. I mean, man, and they are so efficient and so nice. Please call them today. You'll see what I mean. 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. By the way, too, don't forget, on every day we start the program right after the Pledge of Allegiance, we do our weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door, 678-6945. Carpet, flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And our guest is standing by. Hold on. We're going to get him on the air momentarily, but I also want to acknowledge that if you've got dogs, kitty cats, steers, horses, whatever, you need to become friends with and call today Ark Animal Hospital, 750 21st Street in Hayburn. Number to call, 678-1177. They are a mixed animal practice, meaning big or small. They love and take care of them all. Dr. Bill, Dr. Liz, the whole crew, excellent people, and it's really, really true. They care about your animals. They have warm hearts for cold noses. Please remember that number, Ark Animal Hospital, 678-1177. Here's a guy back in Indianapolis that's got a cold nose. I'm just kidding. Hello, Dave Bego. How are you?
Well, Zeb, you talk about a cold nose. I guess I'm going to have to bruise your nose. So here goes. I got a question for you.
Oh, okay.
So who is Bill Curry?
Bill Curry used to be with the Green Bay Packers and back in the early 60s. Why?
Well, can you tell me more about him?
Well, I mean, he was one of the outstanding football players on the line for the Green Bay Packers, and he also, after the Packers, went to become a coach, and anybody that wears the green and gold has got my respect for their life. Why are you asking me this?
Because if you'd have known the exact history, Bill Curry was the starting center on the Green Bay Packers' first Super Bowl championship team.
Now, see, I thought, out of memory, and I'm gonna probably show some stupidity here. I thought it was Jim Ringo.
Nope. I was at a breakfast luncheon last Friday, a group called Accelerant, which you're a member of. It's a business-to-business. There was about 250, 300 people in the room, and Bill Curry gave a speech, and he told us about this, and then his career at the Packers and his coaching career and everything. He's a great guy, and Zeb, he signed a football for me, and it's sitting on my shelves over here next to a Packer helmet.
There you go.
Tell you that today.
I'm glad you did. No, seriously, I thought that Jim Ringo was in the first Super Bowl, and then Bill Curry came on the next season. So I'm sorry. I stand corrected. I stand in the sunlight of your knowledge, and I so well appreciate your comment.
Well, I'm just telling you what he told us. So
no, I agree.
He wasn't telling us a fairy tale.
Oh, no. I know that he did play there. I know I thought Jim Ringo. Now, there again, I remember Ringo, I think, left the Packers and I believe played for a season with Philadelphia, but I could be wrong on that. Don't leave me hanging. It's dead air.
Bring you up to date on meeting him and getting a signed football from him and listening to his speech. He did a good job. He was a great guy, and my wife and I had our picture taken with him afterwards. He had people come up on stage that wanted a picture, and we got one with him.
You know, I'm just, before we get into the heavier stuff of today's news and everything, that would make him, and correct me if I'm wrong on this too, but I believe that he would have to be at least in his mid to latter 70s right now.
He said he was 74.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, at least I got part of it right. Anyway, Dave Bigo, I got to ask you because I think I know already what some of your answer is going to be. I feel, and you can jump in and correct me if you wish, I feel like the expedition and the hurry up, let's get it passed, run it out on the table, health care plan from the Republicans is not a smart thing to do. Let's make sure it's right. Let's make sure that it's patient friendly. Let's make sure it's cost effective. Let's take some time and study this first, or we'll have another fiasco like Obamacare. Your thoughts?
Well, I think they need to. I know they're in a hurry to do it, and I understand that. But the other side of it is you got to work your way through it. And but on the other side of that, Zeb, I think what's going to happen because there's so many opponents on both sides of the aisle, because we have unfortunately Republicans that are not as conservative thinking as they should be, and they're going to oppose this stuff. So I think you're going to see negotiating back and forth, and I think when you do that, I think you'll see Trump add in things that will make this a better long run for America and the American people, and he'll add some of the things in he's kind of holding back right now. You got to remember, he's a good negotiator.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not opposed to what you said at all, but I said it last week on my program. I'm going to say it again right now. I said that I think they ought to take a minimum of 6 months and take every page, read it, reread it, and make sure everything is correct before they absolutely try to pass this thing. I don't want to see another fiasco like Obamacare and what it did to the American public.
Well, I agree with you, and they're going to have to go through it. Zeb, I think it's going to take at least that long, maybe longer, because it's going to be an interesting fight. And but at least it's on the table now, and you can start the negotiations and the programs and all that, and in the meantime, you can be having people behind the scenes going through and striking out those things that aren't good for America. So we'll see where it goes.
I got to ask you this. Jason Chaffetz took a lot of heat yesterday, Republican Jason Chaffetz, and he was right. No matter what Republicans or conservatives say, the left is going to jump on them like a cat to a plate of milk. But he came out and he said, hey, listen, you know, America and Americans have got to be somewhat responsible, too, for their health care and what they get and what they use. And he said the statement that a lot of people are going to have to make a discernment as to whether to buy a new iPhone or whatever or pay for their insurance. Well, the left went loony on him yesterday, but wait a minute, Mr. Beagle. You'll recall that about 5-6 years ago, Obama said the same thing, but that was okay.
Oh yeah, it's do as I say, not as I do with them. You know, I've talked about this in my book and in my blogs. They're hypocritical. They say whatever they feel is right at the time to advance their agenda, and whether they're telling the truth or misinforming people or whatever it is, Zeb. And we're going to continue to see this. It's going to get worse as time goes along, especially as you know, the far left with Obama and his OFA and Soros and the unions like the SIU try to bring him down.
Let me ask you something, and this is purely all speculation on my part. But this next healthcare plan, like I said, if it's not right and really nailed down tight as to what is and what isn't, boy, if they mess this up, we could be on the way to single-payer coverage, and I don't think it's ever going to be revoked. What are your thoughts?
Well, it could, but I don't think that's going to happen in this administration. I really don't. And you know, some of the things that they're doing behind the scenes, and that we're seeing a little bit, it's going to relieve some of the regulations and that off of business and that, and you know, make it easier for businesses to do business and grow and, you know, create jobs and pay more wages and stuff like that, which is going to make healthcare easier for people in the long run. Because, as you said, they need to make their own decision, whether they want an iPhone or whether they want healthcare or what they want to do. And everybody in different stages of life have different needs.
Well, you know, Dave, you're a large employer and a very, very well-respected businessman. But I'm afraid that our society, and this is just a feeling of mine, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm afraid our society has got away from personal responsibility, and now society is looking for the government to be the complete nanny state and give them everything. I'm afraid that the percentages are a lot bigger than what we think of those people that want everything handed to them, and I'm also afraid I don't think we can turn this thing around.
Well, you're exactly right. Unfortunately, we have moved in that direction, and that's because of the tactics, the Alinsky tactics and agenda of the far left. They want to turn everybody into be dependent on the state and the government. That way they can control them. They keep everybody the same. And, again, when you keep everybody the same, you know, nobody's jealous. There's no arguments or anything like that, and it's easy to control them. And that's what this is all about, Zeb. And, you know, communism, socialism, you know, years ago after we've won the wars overseas, they told us they would attack us from within, and I think that's what's going on now.
I do, too. Okay, that brings me up to the point where here we are. We're looking at the first 100 days about ready to come to a screeching halt. We're looking at a lot of good things that the Trump administration has tried to walk through and promote and get done for the American people. What are your scores or grades for Trump? Let's just say on a 1 to 10 scale, where does he go? Or on an A through F scale, where does he go? What do you think?
I think he's doing about an 8 so far. I mean, he, as I've talked to people, you know, he needs to stay professional and keep his act polished and keep the nose to the grindstone. And sometimes he just steps out, like, you know, he went off on this tweet about Obama and the wiretaps and all that. And, you know, I wish he would stay away from that stuff. But if he believes that stuff happened, do it behind the scenes and make sure you have the evidence. And let the government expose the past president for this stuff. Don't do it on tweets.
I totally agree. We have a caller with a question. Quickly, caller, your question, please.
Well, speaking about the wiretap, you know, Clapper, because wiretapping isn't really what we call it anymore, technically Clapper could deny that it happened because it's not wiretapping anymore. It's a digital age. I don't know what you call it. But speaking about the intelligence community having moles inside of them that are loyalists to Obama, and how hard it is going to be to find them, I guess, because I guess, they're a chameleon, and so how does he find them and purge them from the system? Because this leaking business is absolutely so destructive. It's got to end.
Yeah.
I'll hang up.
Dave, respond to the caller, please.
Well, it's always tough to do. Every organization faces at times where you have people that are not loyal and that, and are undermining you and that, and you just have to have keep your eyes open all the time, and you have to have certain people that are investigating and looking at different people that you suspect are not being honest and loyal to your company or your administration, whatever it may be. And because there's so many people in Washington that, obviously are underneath the administration, he's going to have to set up a team that really looks at this stuff and investigates this. But again, I would keep it quiet. I wouldn't be out there doing these, things he's doing with his tweets and all that kind of stuff, because you just open up the door to give the other side ammunition to shoot you with.
Dave, over the last couple of weeks, especially in the last week since you and I visited on this program, we have seen pro-Trump rallies. We have seen people wearing Make America Great Make America Great Again caps. We've seen very peaceful rallies for pro-Trump. We've seen some very educated people interviewed on television as to why they're out there supporting the president and the administration in a very low-key, peaceful manner. But then, all of a sudden, from around the corner run the vermin, the absolute stupid left that are carrying placards. They attack these people that are Trump supporters. They knock elderly people down to the ground. They beat them. They knock women down to the ground and beat them. And there is not enough jail room available to lock these people up. And they're getting away with this in this country. What do we do?
Well, you have to expose them, Zeb, and that's what I've talked about on your program and others, is that we have to expose the mainstream media and everybody else to what's truly going on. A lot of these people, and I was listening to a radio program here in Indianapolis this morning when I was driving into work, because they're having women's rights marches today.
Yeah.
And, when they've talked to a lot of these people on the streets, these people have no idea why they're out there. They can't tell you. They just said, well, we're just out here, and this is what we're supposed to say. And this is the same thing that the SEIU did against me and my company when they attacked us, because what they do is they pay these people cash for the day to go out and do these things. And we have to expose the fact that these aren't these people. These people are being paid to do these things for the left.
Absolutely. We have another call with a question. We're down to about 5 minutes left in the program. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. You're probably aware that on March the 16th, there's a nationwide campaign to send cards, letters to Trump at the White House, 20500 on Pennsylvania Avenue there, and to basically support him. And we're encouraging everybody to get postcards, get them out to your friends, letters, whatever, but mail those on the 16th, so the White House is absolutely flooded with support for Trump.
Absolutely.
Repudiate all of this negative stuff about him, although I'm not real pleased about this health care thing, as we discussed earlier, but we need to support Trump in general, because otherwise you got 5 different groups that are working against him, so I'd like him to comment about that.
All right.
16th of March, everybody send a card or a letter supporting Trump right to the White House.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Dave, respond, please.
Well, I think we need to support him any way we can, because the mainstream media is going to continue to attack him, because the mainstream media is controlled by the left behind the scenes, what they say and what they're not going to say. They're afraid to say things that the left doesn't want them to, because, they'll be attacked, or the left will send people to go after their advertisers and stuff like that. And it's a shame that we have people in this country that have to try to achieve their agenda through these tactics.
You know, Dave, I was going to mention, along with these thugs and punks on the left that are attacking peaceful people that are trying to show support to the president, I don't know if you heard or not, but Vice President selection for Hillary Clinton, Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, oh yeah, his 24-year-old son, Woody Kaine, was arrested in Minnesota for setting off fireworks and smoke bombs in the rotunda of the state capitol, and he injured a 61-year-old lady. I mean, this is the low class of the left.
It is, Deb, and you just have to understand, and I've seen it, most Americans have, and I've seen it because I fought the SEIU, and the unions are still doing this stuff. I mean, I was watching a thing from another guy I know. He was on RT TV, which is a Russian television, and the announcer was a far-left guy. He was for the unions and that, and he was saying, unions are still great things. He says it's employers that are the bad people. They bring people in and, keep them meetings hours a day, tell them lies and all this kind of stuff, and they're hypocritical and all that. And the truth is, it's these people that are doing these things. It's not the employers and the mainstream Americans out there. And we just have to somehow get America to wake up to what's going on and challenge these people. And because, again, I've said this before on your show, these people are desperate. They're in a death spiral. And they're going to do desperate things until they can try to get Trump out of the White House and gain power back in Washington.
Oh, yeah, it's easy for us, and I don't mean to sound like I'm minimizing anything you said, but it's easy for us on the radio to say something's got to be done, we got to stop this, we got to change the current events to where we're all divided as a nation, etc. But honestly, my dear friend, what can we do?
Well, again, in talking to people, and I think this election proved that, Zeb, you look at the election, even in the union membership, 55% or so of union members voted for Trump. That is historically new. And the reason is because they're tired of the union bosses and their far-left agenda and their, tactics of control and intimidation and misinformation and all that, and they want to see America return where it is. And I think we got to keep moving through each level of society and getting them to understand what's going on and, why they left is, making promises they can't keep or don't even intend to keep. They want to do all this social justice and welfare stuff for people. That isn't because they care about these people. It's all about votes.
Yep,
and
I agree.
We got to wake up the American public to this stuff.
I absolutely agree. Mr. Dave Bego, a dear friend of this program, author of books like The Devil at My Doorstep, The Devil at Our Doorstep. Very, very successful businessman. Thank you for your time, as always, on our program. We'll look forward to next week, and God's blessings to you and your family.
Well, thank you, and hope you have a great week and weather out there.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks so much. Really enjoy having him on the program every single week, Dave Bego, back in Indianapolis, Indiana. Great insight. Hey, by the way, also want to remind you about the great big Southern Idaho Women's Expo coming up, sponsored by the Mini-Cassia Chamber of Commerce, Idaho Central Credit Union, and Idaho Housing and Finance. It's going to be April 13th, Thursday, April 13th at the Best Western Burley Inn. Don't miss it. And vendors, businesses that want to talk about their business and show their business to all these wonderful ladies that are going to be there, oh my goodness, you better call for a booth space right now. Don't wait. They're going fast. You don't want your competition to have it and you not be there. My goodness, call 679-4793, 679-4793 for a booth registration today. Call that number at the Mini-Cassia Chamber of Commerce. Okay? Also, our thanks go out as we talk about them every day, and they do a wonderful, wonderful service for our community, and they're always helping on other issues, too. And that's Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with our dear friend Joel Heward, the man that never quits smiling. I mean, he is one of the nicest people you could ever meet. And Joel Heward, his family, and his staff always serving you, and your family. When there's the passing of a loved one, and like I've said many, many times, the most tumultuous of times, they are there to help you with all the arrangements, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Please call them today at 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, serving you. Quick reminder that we are going to have Lunch Bunch next Thursday on the 16th at Denny's Restaurant America's Diner. Don't forget that. Our thanks again to Smith's Foods, Hanson Mortuary, and Stokes for all the door prizes. Going to be a lot of fun. Always is a lot of fun, so don't you miss it at, of course, Denny's Restaurant America's Diner. Real quick, I also want to remind you about our friends over to Let's Ride. This is where, no question about it, the fun is sold. If you're looking for a four-wheeler to get out and enjoy the beautiful southern Idaho area this spring, look no further. They've got a showroom chock full. I don't know how they got all those outfits in there. And they've got all the accessories, and they've got a great service department, which leads me to tell you that if you haven't had your four-wheeler service for this year, better get them in there now. I got to take mine over, too. Don't forget Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. Yes, sir. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Really, really good, folks. Oh, and two, while you're over there, I suggest you kind of combine everything and make sure you don't have to follow back up with another road trip. I would call Cameron and Siemens Insurance today and talk about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They know all of this, and they certainly are dedicated and responsive to serving you. Call for an appointment at 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really, really nice people. Well, let's take a look at our phone right now because we have Representative Fred Wood with us on our legislative update from the Capitol in Boise for 2017. Good morning, Representative Wood.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you this morning?
Well, did you hear the weather forecast? They're calling for maybe 60 degrees on Saturday. I am going to organize a beach party.
Well, yeah. Can you find any beach? You may be out in the middle of the water.
That's a good point, Fred. Don't keep raining on my fun parade here.
Okay, all right, I won't. Okay. But then you better not call the Capitol if you don't want somebody raining on your parade.
Well stated, my friend.
Never comes out of this place, you know.
Right. Hey, while we got you started here, you know, Fred, you're a doctor. I highly recommend and respect everything that you say. As now a representative for the state of Idaho, you are very well read on all the different subjects that are going on. What about the Republicans? And it seems to me, and I want you to respond, it seems to me like they're on a hurry-up trail. Let's gallop the horses instead of going at a walk or a slow jog. Let's gallop and get this health care right through right now. And I think they're pushing it too fast. What are your thoughts?
Well, Zeb, I've had an opportunity to read a couple of executive summaries concerning the American Health Care Act is what they call it. And I'll take 1 minute. If you remember correctly, the Affordable Care Act was passed in two bills, not one. The first bill, which is the consumer protection and the policy portion of the bill, was 1,800 pages. That's the one, that's the portion that said of guaranteed coverage. You could keep your kids on it till you were 26, the 10 essential health benefits, and on and on and on. All of those things that really increase the cost of health care. The other portion of the bill was the reconciliation of portion of the bill, which is about 1,000 pages long, and that's where they had all of the taxes associated with the bill, with the Accountable Care or the Affordable Care Act, and all of the tax subsidies associated with that. Well, interestingly enough, at the 100,000-foot level, what do you think they did, Zeb? And I'll bet you if you had 30 seconds and thought about it for a minute, you could tell me exactly what they did, but you don't have to do that. I'll tell you what they did. What they did is they repealed all of the taxes, and they repealed the subsidies and replaced it with a different kind of a tax credit.
Oh, boy.
But they kept everything else intact from the Affordable Care Act. So you wonder why the liberals hate it, because it increases the deficit and there's no money coming in to pay for it. And you wonder why the conservatives are going crazy, because they never really repealed the Affordable Care Act. All of those things associated with it that drives up the cost of health care. And it's obvious as to why you've got 4 U.S. senators that have failed on it already, as I understand it. And if you believe any news reports, then they've got other U.S. senators that are privately expressing concerns, but not yet formally bailed on it. And I think they've already lost more than enough House members to pass this thing. So you're right. I don't know what the big hurry is, other than maybe they're trying to keep a campaign promise that they never should have made. They should have set about taking care of it and repealing it and fixing it. But, they're just getting the cart before the horse here, and they are really going to destabilize things if we're not careful here.
Oh, I totally agree. Now, here's a thought. Now, again, with your knowledge and expertise, you can tell me I'm wrong. But I'm afraid that if they really botch up this mess of pancakes called a new healthcare system, we could be on the road that will never change to a single-payer healthcare system. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you are. And to go to fill in a couple of steps of what you're talking about, if they botch this such that 10 or 20 or 30 million people start losing any kind of health care or access to health care or payment for health care, so you've got that disaffected crowd that is going to vote something different. And then they never really fixed the real problems with the Affordable Care Act. They left those in place. So they haven't done anything to lower the cost of health care. They're increasing the cost of health care. There's going to become a tipping point when there's enough dissatisfaction with enough people and citizens in the United States that everybody's going to throw up their hands and say, listen, okay, let's take a look at all of the other industrialized countries. Every single one of them have single payer, and you know what? They're living just as long as Americans are living, et cetera, et cetera. So why don't we go try that for a while, and let's see if we like that any better.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen, and that's exactly what you're saying, Zeb. People are going to become dissatisfied, and they're going to look for alternatives, and the first person that comes up with a alternative that has been proven elsewhere to take care of people's health care, people will adopt that.
But Fred, as a doctor and now as a representative, you have the great eyesight, if you will, to look down both roads and tell us the negatives and the positives. What is, honestly, from a layman's point of view like mine, what is so hard about trying to sit down and figure out a philosophy and a policy that will work for America? Why is it so difficult?
Well, Zeb, I've asked myself that question for 11 years since I've been up here in the State House, and it's not just about health care. It's about other issues. And another issue that I would like to get to here in a few minutes, and whenever we've got 10 minutes left, please stop me and let's go on to the transportation issue and how we're going to fund flood relief, et cetera. So, but anyway, there's 105 people up here who were elected by their representatives back home to send them up here. Well, if you look at Legislative District Number 1, Legislative District Number 17, 18, and 35, there is, those 4 districts represent the extreme in people's philosophy and in people's feelings and in people's just what government ought to be doing and what is the proper role of government.
Right.
District 17 and 18 are the north end of Boise and downtown Boise. District 1 is northern Idaho up against the border, and District 35 is eastern Idaho up against the border. I mean, Zeb, you would think that you were talking to people from different planets if you sit down and try to talk to those four groups of legislators. They can't agree on anything. They can't agree on what's right. They can't agree on what's wrong. They can't agree on whether health care should be subsidized or whether everybody just ought to be out on their own, surviving in the woods with no cell phone and no running water. It is a stark difference of philosophy about how you live and political philosophy. And unless you've been here to see that, it's hard to describe it, Zeb.
Absolutely.
It's incredibly hard to describe it to you as to why reasonable people can't sit down and cut a deal and come to an agreement.
Okay, I
can't explain it to you or the listeners, but I'm telling you, it is difficult.
I've got about that time left. I need to do a quick commercial, and then I want to come back and talk about transportation, because this is really an evil thing that's happened to not only our highways and byways, but also our property owners with the flooding situation. Ladies and gentlemen, Ag Express is looking for drivers. They're looking for full and part-time drivers, and they're also welcoming retired folks to send in their applications. Please call them today. Great new and maintained equipment. They've got a vacation schedule. They've got a lot of great benefits for you. You're home every night. Call Ag Express right now. Call Dale and Paul at 438-8886, Allen in Twin Falls 731-2495, and Russ and Burley at 431-7175. Call today. Ag Express looking for drivers. You call them right now. Fred, I can't even imagine what you as a legislator and representative, what you're going through, what you're trying to figure out how we're going to pay for the road renovations and all this devastation from the floods and everything. What's going on right now?
Well, let me tell you, we had a chairman's meeting this morning, and the chairman of transportation and the speaker kind of brought us up to date what the latest thinking is. JFAC, first of all, JFAC has already passed the appropriation bill to put about $52 million out immediately. I think it starts on March the 15th or March the 20th or something like that. A bunch of that money goes into the state disaster program, such that all of the counties that have been declared both state and or federal disaster counties, the state has a lot of funding available for the 75% match, 15% state match, and 10% local match. And a lot of the 10% local match apparently can be in kind, so that there's plenty of money to access that provision to start building the infrastructure back.
Mm-hmm.
That's already been essentially accomplished. I think there's either the Senate or the House has yet to vote on that, but that'll fly right through. That's not a problem. The second issue is spring breakup, and what are we going to do to start putting as much money into the roads as we possibly can? First of all, we have about $300 million to $350 million of Garvey bonding left. Now, that has to be new projects, widening projects, etc., but that's going to be applied from that destroyed interstate between the sugar beet factory in Nampa out as far as it'll go beyond Caldwell.
Right.
That interstate has been shut down for repairs this year. That's how bad it is out there. It's almost like a gravel road.
Right.
I don't know if you've driven on it
I have.
recently, but
Yeah.
there's new potholes appearing every day. But that's a specific Garvey program that is going to address that project plus a couple of other new projects. We're going to take a certain amount of the sales tax and put that into a specific project to try a strategic initiative project to deal with the worst roads. Details of that haven't been formulated very much yet. My understanding is that they're trying to figure out exactly how much of ongoing general fund money to put into the roads. That portion hasn't been decided yet, but that would go directly into the state distribution formula, which is 60% state dollars, 40% local dollars to go to the local highway districts. Basically, the only thing left at this point in time is just exactly how much money is going to be put into each of those projects to start funding the local infrastructure that's coming out here.
Let me just say this, and then I want a short answer, and we'll take a call that's waiting. But, Fred, I am prejudiced in my saying this because I live near and on this Highway 30. It's become a war zone. It's become a traffic hazard. It's become very dangerous. It looks like a bombed-out field in many places. But, honestly, if they repave the roads and fix the roads, what about, and I'm going to say this and maybe step on some people's toes, but it's my own personal opinion, what about cutting back in these heavy trucks that have destroyed the road, 160,000 pounds? These trucks are too heavy for the road conditions that we have here.
Well, certainly during spring breakup and winter thaw, spring thaw, etc., there's no doubt about the fact that the heavier the object is going down the road, the more damage that it does. A 6,000-pound car isn't going to do any damage, but a 129,000-pound truck is going to do a significant amount of damage. Now, that's a policy call that the legislature has to make. I have been one that has kind of advocated for when you have the worst of spring breakup, you're going to have to do something about the heavy loads, or you're going to wind up having to spend a whole lot more money fixing the roads.
Absolutely.
So the choice is yours. Now, how do you want to do that?
Yep.
Something has to change with respect to that because we don't have enough money to keep on repairing roads like this every year.
Absolutely. Caller,
it's as simple as that.
We have a caller waiting, and I've only got about 7 minutes left. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Quickly.
Yeah, Fred, do you have any idea of what Menincasia the road repairs might be, whether or not it's county, state, and federal interstates? And I'll hang up what that cost might be. Thanks.
Go ahead, Fred, please.
I have not heard any estimate of any individual county that has come in yet. I don't think that figure is available because I don't think anybody has been able to get out and actually assess the complete damage. They're doing that, and that's an ongoing process. But I don't know of any county that has actually been able to come back and say, here is the full extent of the damage that we have to date.
You know, Fred...
some may have, but I'm not aware of that if they have. They're all working on it.
Fred, I can't even imagine how the structure could be set up by planning and by highway, by how you have to fix this road and allow for traffic to go here. The actual repaving of our roads, i.e. like Highway 30 and like you're talking up there on the interstate by Napa-Caldwell area. I mean, my goodness, we're talking about not just being a Band-Aid quickly fixed by July of this year. This could be a 3 or 4 year project. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct, and that's why a lot of the funding that is going to go into transportation, and that's quite frankly where the argument is. Everybody understands that this is not a one-year project. This is going to be an ongoing project. Everybody's estimating 4 to 5 years. Well, so we're going to have to take a certain amount of ongoing funding that would be available for somewhere else to put into transportation for a minimum of 4 or 5 years to repair the damages just from this year. And what happens if we have another bad year in the near future? So all of those things are being talked about and wrestled with to come up with the appropriate amount of money to put into it, because it's not a one-time shot, Zeb. It's going to take several years.
Now, saying that, though, and hopefully I know that the legislative session wanted to wrap up in about 2 weeks, are these very worrisome projects for money, et cetera, on our transportation, are they going to elongate the session to where you're going to have to stay there until you come up with some concrete answers?
As of, let's see, what time is it? As of 9:49 on Wednesday, March the 8th, the answer is no. Okay? I don't guarantee anything 10 minutes from now. But at the chairman's meeting this morning, Zeb, everything seemed to be lined up that everybody knows we need to go home. Everybody wants to go home. They want to be home when the bad stuff really starts. Nobody wants to be here when the bad stuff starts. Everybody recognizes that's not very far down the road. I don't see anything at this point in time that's going to hold up us getting out of here on the 24th. Now, I hope I'm not proven wrong and I'm going out on a limb by saying that, but at this point in time, I don't see it.
All right, Fred, final thought here. As far as past legislative sessions and the issues that had to be addressed, what about this one? Are you happy, satisfied, or unhappy as to the net result on some of the issues you've had to face?
When we started, I was disappointed that we weren't going to be able to do anything in health care. It turned out to be one of those blessings, because given now what Congress has done, I'm not sure we ought to do anything until they get their act straightened out. Number two, it's been the weirdest session I've ever been associated with, particularly with the garbage extracurricular activities that has nothing to do with the appropriate functioning of a legislature. Number three, it's the slowest session I've ever seen with respect to bills. As of Monday, the House was only at about House Bill 245, by far the smallest number I've ever seen, and the Senate was only at 138 bills for the year, which is way below what the Senate typically does. So it's really been an abnormal session. What work we have accomplished, though, is, I think, of better quality than we normally do. If I might judge my own or our own quality, I think it's been good bills this year for the most part. Just fewer of them and better bills.
All right. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your frankness and your honesty on our program every time you're here. Representative Fred Wood, thank you for being on the Legislative Update, and I'll look forward to having you back. Thanks, Fred.
Zeb, thank you so much, and I'll see you. One of us will see you next week.
All right, sir. Thank you very, very much. Like I said, folks, he's a straight shooter, and I respect him. And that's Representative Fred Wood for our weekly Legislative Update. Thank you very much. Oh, we've got to get... I'm anxious. I keep loving to hear the weather forecast that Gina gives me, because at the very end of the forecast, she says something that just absolutely makes me feel good. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. Weather forecast brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. Tax return preparation, tax planning, retirement planning, all of this and so much more. 2 locations to serve you, 1710 Overland in Burley and 620 5th Street in Rupert. The very best helping you. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Temperatures are warming up, and that flood advisory is still in effect, and they're probably going to extend that through this weekend, and here's why. We are expecting way warmer temperatures for today. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 52. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 38. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be rolling in, expecting a high of 57, overnight low of 42 for Thursday night. Friday, we do have a 40% chance of rain showers in the forecast, high of 58. Could be 60 for Saturday. That's your weather for Zeb Durant.
Did you hear those magic words? Could be 60 on Saturday. I'm loving it. And the weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. CPAs, as I said, the professionals working and serving you. There you go. What else have I got to tell you about here real quick? I don't want to forget anything for this hour. Next hour, we're going to have Kerry Lutz on the phone talking about Congress. We've been nagging and nitpicking about Congress all morning. We're going to continue, and Kerry Lutz is going to be on at 10:06. And then at 10:30, my dear friend Jack Euler is going to call in, and we're going to talk about the total ambiguity of what's going on with the wolf issue in our United States. Why don't they make one plain edict that is applicable to all the states instead of, well, California, you can't do this, Idaho, you can do that, oh, Wyoming, different plan here. It's stupid. And we're going to talk to Jack about that at 10:30 this morning. Oh, and by the way, too, Rogge Auctions. Talked to Cade. Deanne talked to Cade yesterday. They are going to be taking consignments now for the big spring community sale at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds on April 8th, starting at 10 a.m. So get your consignments ready. They're asking you to consign early so they can get them on the sale bill. That's right. All your consignments, whether it's livestock equipment or farm equipment or ATVs, whatever it might be, you be sure and let them know today. Call Ron Rogge at 431-6187 or Cade Rogge at 431-0074 and check out their website, RoggeAuction.com, for an update of the items. That's a big sale coming up on April 8th at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds, managed by Rogge Auction Company. Okay, don't forget to that next week on Thursday, the 16th, we will have Lunch Bunch at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. Yes, at 11:30. Now, we have missed so much time with Lunch Bunch, and some of the folks are just absolutely chomping on the bit to get back together again. We haven't seen each other for a long time. I think it's been, 3 months we've had the weather mess us up. We're going to be there next Thursday, like I said, if I have to float a boat over there. And we're looking forward to seeing each and every one of you. And newcomers are always welcome. And that's going to be at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, on next Thursday, the 16th. And our thanks go out to Smith's Foods and Hanson Mortuary and Stokes for all the gift certificates that they have for door prizes. God bless each and every one of you, and we're looking forward to it next Thursday, the 16th. Okay, is there anything else I've got to tell you about? I don't think so. I just want you to kind of sit back, and Old Wheels is going to play some music in a moment and take us up to CBS News. Then we'll come back for our last and final hour this morning with Kerry Lutz starting at 10:06. By the way, I never in all my life learned or even knew that I wanted to learn as much about borax as I did yesterday after Dr. History. I had people calling me all morning saying, well, they use borax for this and they use borax for that and everything. What a program yesterday. I really learned a lot about 20 Mule Team borax. Anyway, we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Wheels, take it away. Oh, my. You know, I got to tell you the truth. I was sitting in my chair here a moment ago, and I was just gazing out the window, thinking to myself, 60 degrees on Saturday? Oh, man, is it going to be great? And I certainly hope it doesn't rain. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, hour number 3. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, they got a big spring tire sale going on right now. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. You call, get on the route service, 734-6969. Want to remind, well, look who's back on the program this morning. Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Oh, my goodness, with all the wind, the snow, the rain, everything else, oh, my goodness sakes, you better get a hold of them. You know, it would be a great time right now going into spring to talk to Scott about landscaping ideas to help keep the water from going into your basement maybe again next year. Yeah, all kinds of things. And the wind is blown so hard, and I'm sure you got a lot of tree and shrub damage. Why don't you talk to him about trimming everything up so it looks good and ready to go? Scott Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Number to call, 438-2485. You give him a call today. Pardon me? All kinds of trees, Deanne. Fruit trees, tree and shrub damage. That's what it says here, tree and shrub damage. And fruit trees. Thank you. My lovely bride is now taken over as producer of our program. Thank you. Right now, let's go to the phone line. And we have with us a lady that's going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to all of us, makes us feel warm and fuzzy all over, that being the Senate and the House of Representatives. Good morning, Kerry Lutz. How are you?
All right. I'm actually a guy, but I've been going through that my whole life, so no offense taken.
You know what, Kerry? If you could reach out long distance and just slap me upside the head, I apologize for the faux pas, and I will stand in complete reverence and not say another word that might make you mad.
No offense taken. Don't worry about it.
Well, God bless you, sir. Hey, listen, honestly, a subject that is coming up, I think even more so now than ever before, is our Congress, our senators, our House of Representatives members. You know, they just got this feeling, and they kind of portray it on different TV interviews and everything else, Kerry, like, I am the man or woman, and thou shalt listen to me. I'm sick of this attitude.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if you saw my little blurb there, they're a joke. You know, as Will Rogers famously said, every time they make a law, it's a joke, and every time they make a joke, it's a law, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with these guys? Just get rid of them, I think, is just keep voting them out, and maybe one day they'll get the message.
Okay, but Kerry, you know and I know it's not that easy. Unless we implement and finally get enforced term limits, we're going to be stuck with a lot of the bottom-of-the-barrel people, and it seems like when they go back to the Potomac, even the ones that have good intentions seem to get sick with that Potomac fever. What are we going to do? I mean, we've got an opportunity right now, I think, with the Senate and the House being controlled by Republicans. You would think they would put every foot forward as well as they can to do what's right for the American public. I don't see it.
No, I mean, you got this GOP-E or GOP establishment, of which Ryan is a card-carrying member, and so is Mitch McConnell, and their intention is to frustrate Trump's agenda at every possible juncture, and they're doing a great job at it. You know, they have no intention of ever getting rid of Obamacare. And, you know, because the whole point of Obamacare was to shift the cost of health care, especially retiree health care, from the private sector, especially the large corporations like the auto manufacturers and GE and others, from the private sector over to the public sector until Medicare kicked in. And that's what they've done. And there's no going back. They're not going to shift it back to the private sector. So now it's just a game of making the public think they're trying to do it when they're not really trying to do it. And, you know, they're just playing pretend here. Just like they pretend to try to make the government smaller, and they're not really doing it. They never have, and they never will. Just like Bush. I want limited government, but I'm going to add this prescription drug benefits for you.
Yeah.
They're total phonies, and they're totally disingenuous and insincere, and that's what they're about. Okay. So once you start looking at them through that lens, then you realize that they offer no solutions here.
Okay, now, a lot of people that might be tuning in, Kerry, they might be hearing you and I, and they might be saying, oh, what a couple of naysayers. They don't have anything positive to say about our government or our Congress, but what can we do as constituents? I have said for a long time that when our politicians come home to roost for a few days, go out and meet them face to face. Be respectful, but be very forceful, and demand that they're listened to and that they get answers to their questions. What else can we do?
I wish I had an answer for you, But I go back to Mark Twain's quote, suppose you are an idiot, suppose you are a member of Congress, but I repeat myself, they're all bought and paid for, most of them. Support the Congressional Freedom Caucus, support Rand Paul, and support the president in this. If there's enough of a stink and enough of an outcry, then they'll maybe have to do something. But I'm pessimistic about it because they really are the enemy of the people. Trump said the media is the enemy of the people, and he was only partly right. The Congress is really the enemy of the people now. And just look at that thing that they came up with. They've had 7 years to come up with a replacement, and this is the best they can do. I mean, where's the buying insurance over state lines? Where's the tort reform? I didn't see any of that. Two things that really inflate the cost of health care, and they didn't even touch it. Where are medical savings accounts? I didn't see any of them. Nothing. They didn't address anything, the root causes of why health care costs so much.
All right, let me ask you this.
Accreditation creep. There's so many things they could do, and they've done nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the intent. Look like you're doing something when you're really doing nothing.
It sounds really insidious, and it's Kerry, it sounds really insidious, and it sounds like it's almost evil controlled. But let me ask you this part of the health care. I have said on my program, and I just said it last half hour to another guest, a representative from the state of Idaho, Fred Wood. I said, wait a minute, what they ought to do is get this thing written up in the first fashion, and they ought to just take 6 months minimum to dissect it, tear it apart, dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure that it's patient-friendly, and then go from there. But you don't have very much optimism they'll even do that, do you?
No. I mean, like, who are the people that provide the health care? The doctors, the nurses, the professionals. I didn't see them consulting any of these people. They didn't talk to any of them. Just like last time. They talked to the hospital chains, Big Pharma, and, the insurance companies. That's it. They didn't talk to the people that actually provide the health care. Look, if they need to break the Senate's filibuster rules, do the nuclear option to pass this thing, and to really make it subject to market forces, that's what needs to be done. The Senate's rituals and traditions be damned. This is too important because Obamacare really is imploding. As it stands now, we're all going to be on Medicare. I mean, that's what they're gunning for. And Hillary Clinton will be dancing a jig. So will Harry Reid, and so will Nancy Pelosi, because that's what they wanted in the first place. Not that the old system was so great, but it did work. And that's their intention, as well as Obama, and that's what they're going to get. They should be thrilled.
Your picture...
the Republicans will have been the enablers of the whole thing.
Yeah. Your picture of what might very well happen with health care is very ominous. I maintain, going way back to when Obamacare was in the thinking stages, that here we are, a healthcare system that had a lot of holes. It had a lot of holes in the screen door. It needed a lot of changes. It needed a lot of alterations. But they changed and revamped the healthcare system in America for Obamacare to basically cover about 30 million people that couldn't, didn't, or had no insurance whatsoever. And when they did that, they actually opened up the door for another 30 million to get out of coverage or be dropped from coverage. They haven't gained anything, and now we're not gaining anything with this Republican plan, and we're wasting all this time and taxpayer dollars. It's really depressing.
Yeah, and 12 million of the people that got covered are covered under Medicaid, which is substandard care. Look, there's another law that says that emergency rooms must treat you, no matter how benign your condition is. If you have a rash, if you have an ingrown toenail, and you go to the emergency room, they must treat you. And this is bankrupting emergency rooms, causing emergency rooms to shut down all over the country. That should be repealed. Let them go to critical care facilities that you have sprung up all over the place. Let the hospital set up a clinic right next to it and say, sorry, that's not an emergency. Go over there and get treated.
Absolutely.
Address that issue. All right, that's a real threat to emergency rooms all over the country, and causes pileups and backlogs in emergency rooms, especially in urban areas. They don't even touch that, and they know it's an issue. You know, the government screwed our whole health care system up with the passage of Medicare and Medicaid in the first place, and they've continued to screw it up. So to think that they're going to solve the problem that they created in the first place is pure dreaming, because they're just going to continue to make it worse, which this bill is going to do.
Kerry,
not even a question about it.
Yeah, let me ask you this part of it. And, of course, I'm prejudiced because I am now an old man. But I see all of these plans. I see all of these ideas. I see these changes and alterations which are not user-friendly towards our senior citizens. And it's almost like wanting to install a hemlock society. Oh, just go ahead and die and get out of the way so we've got more money for the younger generation. Am I wrong in my thinking about that?
No, I don't see any repeal of the death panels in this revision of Obamacare. It's not a repeal; it's a modification. It's a kind of trimming around the edges, just to try to make the pig look a little bit better with a different shade of lipstick. They've given it a little purple lipstick because the red lipstick didn't look good. You know, it's just really ugly, and it shows what these people are really about. And you know, if they keep this up, they'll lose all three branches of government, and we'll have the communists back in power.
Yeah,
you know, the progressives, whatever they want to call themselves. I mean, this is what they're gunning for. You know, better to repeal everything and, you know, just to have chaos than to have more of this, because the market will find solutions for sure, much better than what the government will ever impose on its own. We're seeing what's happening now.
Yeah. Kerry, on a related note of what's going on in our land of politics, what were your thoughts, and I'm getting off the subject of healthcare a little bit, but what are your thoughts over what transpired over the last 48 hours with the WikiLeaks dumping about 9,000 documents that show our CIA and the scanning and spying on the American public and people in general, and telling the world how they did it? I mean, boy, we're going to have to start reinventing the wheel all over again, aren't we?
Well, look, when the FBI director has a piece of tape over his webcam, well, he's done that for years, you got to figure something is going on there. Look, why do they need to be spying on everybody? You know, there's been huge abuses in our intelligence gathering here. They're monitoring everybody, recording every conversation that we're having. If they're recording this one now, I hope they're enjoying it, and they'll play it back for posterity. I mean, we've become the surveillance state here.
Yeah.
And every other country in the world is doing the same thing, you got to believe. So we don't know how effective these programs are at really keeping the country safe. You know, and then we have these guys that just release everything. Who knows if it's disinformation or what? But we also did learn from it that they used Russian malware, so they're able to penetrate systems and then make it look like the Russians did it. Gee, does that mean that the hacking that the Russians supposedly did during the election, maybe they didn't do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's typical disinformation here that we're being subjected to. So, you know, maybe this is old stuff that they just wanted to muddy up the waters. Is it a further assault on Trump? I'm a little confused what to think here. The timing is very interesting, though. You have to admit.
My biggest fear as a family man, a father, and a grandfather is that this complete insanity that's going on in Washington right now about whether they were bugging Trump Towers or whether there was some collusion with the Russians, this, that, and the other, and now the fiasco with healthcare. We have a world out there that hates us and wants to see the demise of the greatest country ever known to the face of the earth. And we're not taking care of protecting the American public with security necessary. I think this is all kind of a fake left-handed to go back and hit us with the right hand. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the first duty of the government is to protect us from enemies within and without. And doesn't look like they're doing a very good job of it for sure. So it makes you wonder what these guys are doing there. Infiltration, during Obama, it's a bit scary.
Yeah.
I mean, who are our enemies? Who are our friends? At this point, who knows? It's definitely cause for concern because the incompetents that are running Washington certainly we have no idea who to trust at this point.
Absolutely.
Gary, definitely disconcerting. I share your concern for the country's future and for our your children and your grandchildren and mine as well.
Let me ask you one final thought here this morning. Of course, you're with the Financial Survival Network, and I want to ask you about the stock market. Everybody says, oh, goody, look at my 401k, look at my stocks, everything's going up, I'm making all kinds of money back in the market. Whatever goes up has to come down. And I'm really concerned about that coming down, also with a high inflation rate. What are your thoughts on this? And that'll be the last question for our segment.
Well, what goes up must come down, right? And, they're called paper profits for a reason. They can disappear as quickly as they accumulated. I don't know when there's going to be a correction. I don't know when there's going to be a bust, but every boom ends with a bust. It's happened historically in the market, and there's very few people who are smart enough to predict the crash and get out before it happens. So when it's going to happen, I don't know. It's going to happen at some point. There will be a triggering event that's either very obvious to all of us or not obvious. More likely the latter than the former.
Right.
We've seen it over and over again. There's nothing new under the sun here when you're dealing with the stock market, It keeps happening. We never learn our lessons. And we're just going to have to watch it happen again.
Absolutely.
Really.
I absolutely enjoyed
the way it works.
I enjoyed having you on the program, and I hope I can have you back in the future. Kerry Lutz, very, very knowledgeable gentleman, and I thank him for being on our show this morning. God's blessings to you, sir, and please come back soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you very much. Very interesting about our health care, the economy, etc. Thank you very much to Kerry Lutz for being on the show this morning. And in just a few minutes, Jack Euler, come on back. I'm going to have him in the studio, and we're going to talk to Jack about quite a few things. First of all, before I send it back over to our main studios, I want to remind you the Southern Idaho Women's Expo, sponsored by the Mini-Cassia Chamber of Commerce, Idaho Central Credit Union, and the Idaho Housing and Finance, is coming up on April 13th. That's a Thursday at the Best Western Burley Inn. And boy, is it going to be fantastic. And they're going to have literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there. And also, it'd be a great place for you to display your business and talk about your business. Booth spaces are available right now. Call the Chamber office at 679-4793. Once again, 679-4793 for booth registration for the Southern Idaho Idaho Women's Expo going on April 13th at the Burley Best Western. Also, real quick, let's see what else have I got to tell you about. Oh, that great big community sale. Don't forget, Rogge Auction. Man, these are great people serving you. And as soon as I can find it in my list of papers, wouldn't you know, Jack Euler just walked in, and I got all discombobulated trying to find my papers. There we go. Rogge Auction is going to have a great big spring community sale. It's going to be at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds, and that's going to be on April 8th, starting at 10 a.m. Now, consigners, consign now. Consign early to get on the sale bill. They're looking for farm equipment, livestock equipment, ATVs, whatever. Consignments will be taken right now, so call them. Ron Rogge at 431-6187 or Cade Rogge at 431-0074. Check out their website at RoggeAuction.com for an update of items. Don't forget the big spring community sale put on by Rogge Auction Company on April 8th at the Minidoka County Fairgrounds. Woo! Jack Euler's in the studio. We're going to talk about wolves and the idiocy of what's going on state by state all over the Northwest with the predators named the wolves, and we're going to have him on the air for this next half hour. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studios. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. Don't you go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and we're going to get right into it. We got a lot of ground to cover, and I'm with a very, very dear friend, a man that I have the utmost respect for, and I've known him really well since about 1995, and he is the foremost authority on wolves and what they have done in the recovery to the state of Idaho. Good morning, Jack Euler. How are you?
Great.
Good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here, and I thought I'd drive out because I wanted to see you.
Well, there's better things to look at. Jack, I want to get right into this thing. You and I want to tell the audience, we had a great talk yesterday on the telephone prior to this meeting this morning in scheduling Jack to come out here, and I made the statement to Jack on the phone that it's absolutely ridiculous that all the states can't operate underneath the same guidelines for wolf recovery and wolf numbers. Why am I wrong on that?
You're not wrong, and I have had the same feeling for years and years, and Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife worked on that in Washington, D.C. to try and get a uniform rule or law in the United States for wolves, and it was to delist wolves in the lower 48 states and just move forward and let states manage wolves based on the government's introduction and recovery goals and based on state laws.
Okay. Now, we're subject to what now? Is it the 10 or 15 pack rule?
Well, the federal requirement is 10 packs is recovered for the federal government.
Okay, now that equivalates to supposedly 100 wolves.
100 wolves. But you never see that written anymore. You never see it written. And you never see the state goals, or the state law, which Idaho passed of 15 breeding pairs are 150 wolves.
Okay, let's take that number right now, and you're the expert on this. You've worked with this. You've talked to these people on both sides of the issue. If Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and now the problems that are coming up in California, if they both and all adopted the same culture of wolves, if you may, of maybe 150 wolves or 15 breeding pairs, why wouldn't that be working and amenable to all the states?
It should be. As far as I've been frustrated over this issue for many, many years, and all states should be the same, and all states, it's like the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit on the freeways.
Yeah.
Why not make it uniform?
Yeah.
And I agree. It should be the same all over. But when you get into the government, and I think it was 2010 and 2011 when we were in D.C., trying to get this issue pushed forward and to delist in the lower 48 states, we were making tracks because we made the same issues available to Congress as we're talking about here today.
Okay, let's just talk about the ambiguity of what's going on in the states. Let's talk about us. We have a hunting season for wolves, don't we?
Yes.
Now, after all these years. But now, over in Wyoming, big headline in the papers say, wolves could soon be shot on sight in Wyoming, and appeals court rules. And because they're being overwrought with wolves. But then let's go out to the left coast, California, and the poor ranchers and farmers in Modoc County up in Northern California, they're told by the government, you can't touch them, you can't shoot them, they can be chewing on your best horse or all your calves, you can't touch them. This is ridiculous to have these various rules.
That's right. And see, it used to be that way in Idaho. And we went to court, and we presented it to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Boise years ago, and Representative Stevenson and I talked for the 10J rule, which gave us the opportunity to protect our animals within the state of Idaho. Now, what do you mean by animals? That means your pets, your horses, your cows, all animals can be protected under the 10J rule. And why don't they all have the 10J rule in effect? And that's why we went to Washington, to get this a uniform rule across the United States.
Okay, but now, Jack, you've worked with these people, you've argued with these people, you've sat there and talked to the pros and cons, the environmentalists, the wolf lovers, and congressmen and senators, etc. Why don't they get it? What is the barrier here that they don't seem to comprehend?
It is it's the environmentalists and the power they have with the purse today.
Really?
That's what it is today. We're in Washington again. People don't know this, but we're in Washington again trying to do the same thing we tried in 2010, 2011, and 2012. And now we're back there again. We're doing the same thing. We're having good results. And this could happen. I'm not saying it is going to, because Dan Ash and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service shut us down with pressure from the environmental groups, which Dan Ash used to be head of one of the environmental groups prior to being appointed by Obama.
Who are these environmental groups? Sure, we hear about groups like in Oregon Wild, or Wildlife. What are some of the other advocacy groups that you've had to work with?
Well, I've worked with all of them.
Yeah.
And
I'll jump in on you there and say it's not for the protection of the wolf at all, is it? It's for complete control.
It's control. It's control of public lands. It's to get hunters and ranchers off from public lands.
Have you ever been?
That's what it is.
Have you ever been to Modoc County in California?
No.
I have many, many times. I know a lot of people that live there. And I've talked to some of them since this edict came out about, thou shalt not kill the wolves, thou shalt not do anything, thou shalt not protect your property. These people in Modoc County, I can tell you, Jack, and look you right in the eye, these are tough, long-time family heritage ranchers, and you don't want to tell them they can't protect their property. There's going to be problems down there.
Well, I hope there is, because somebody has got to get somebody's attention. It's just like this article that you referred to in the paper about the wolves in Wyoming. You gave the headline, but you didn't give the story.
Yeah, I haven't yet, no.
The story is that the judge ruled to delist the wolves in Wyoming so that they could manage them.
Yep.
They could shoot them. They can manage them. But it doesn't tell the story still. What is it? What is the story? The story is the judge held this. That was his decision, but he held this, and he is going to hold it to see if any of the environmental groups file suit against his decision. If they do, this decision by the judge is going to go down the tubes.
All bets are off.
Yes.
Okay. You know, maybe I'm wrong on this. I don't know that much about Montana's situation. But when you look at Wyoming, and you look at now the problems that have crept up and are now being promoted, if you will, in Oregon, Washington, now into California. Idaho, thanks to people like you, seems to be the most stationary with the rules and regulations, and it's worked since 1995. Am I right or wrong?
Well, it's true. And Wyoming, or Montana and Idaho are pretty much the same in all the issues on the wolf.
I see.
But the environmental groups still are giving us trouble. But what it was when they gave the authority back to us, they gave us 5 years to say, can you manage these wolves? And this is the federal government. This is their rules. They said you had 5 years to show that you can manage and continue to have the amount of wolves that you have in 5 years. Our 5 years were up April of last year.
You know, here in the state of Idaho, you, meaning you and the people that have been connected with this project since 1995, you have bent over backwards to be amenable and work with the environmental groups and also try to come up with a comprehensive package that would appeal to both sides. And it was signed and agreed on the 10 packs or 10 breeding pair and the 100 wolves. That number, I mean, let's be honest here, Jack, that number of 100 wolves in the state of Idaho has been multiplied very possibly by 10 or 11 times, and we currently have that 11 times number here in the state of Idaho, and they still want more.
We have between 1,000 and 1,200 in the state of Idaho today, and they do still want more. And every time something happens, they come back with lawsuits filed against it. It's like when the Fish and Game was going into the Frank Church with a helicopter to put collars on wolves so they could track them, so that they could manage them like they do wildlife and the elk and the deer. And we learned then that you can't. Helicopter is considered a mechanical device, and you can't land a helicopter in the Frank Church Wilderness area.
Wow.
But there's airstrips all over in the Frank Church,
yeah.
But you can't land a helicopter.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
It gets so ridiculous, and I've sat at the table with these environmental groups, and I sat at the table with 3 of them on the governor's task force for sage-grouse. And my question to them on any species that they are asking to be on the endangered species list is, how much money have you guys put on the ground to save a species, whether it be grass, a bug, an animal, or whatever it be. And the answer from the environmental groups is we don't put money on the ground to save a species. We spend our money on attorneys and courts, and that's where they spend them. Plus, we know one environmental group that pays an average of $260,000 in wages to their employees.
Oh, my goodness. You know, Jack, I thought maybe when the agreement was signed for the state of Idaho, I'm just going to isolate it to our state right now. I thought maybe when the agreement was there and both sides had said yes, nodded their heads yes to the 10 breeding pair and the 100 wolves, that maybe the situation was going to be basically solidified and everybody would be happy. It's not. And really, when you look at some of the problems and you look at some of the accusations by the environmental groups, it's as bad in some instances as it was over 20 years ago. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree. But I have learned something, and I learned that you have to move forward, but I have learned that any agreement that you make with an environmental group is when the meeting's over and the door's shut, that's the end of the agreement.
So basically, they don't honor their word.
They don't honor their word. I have been so sick of the agreements that we've hammered out with environmental groups, and then anything doesn't happen to put them into place.
Why haven't you, of course, now I know the answer to this before I ask, but when you see them literally bow their head and not honor what was agreed to, why aren't you being the anti-wolf people, take them to court, sue them for a breach of contract, etc.?
Well, it's just like trying to get the Fish and Game to put in the paper every time there's an article like this in the paper. Why don't you put Fish and Game? Why don't you put an article in the paper what recovery is?
That's a good idea.
Put the recovery goal that the government laid out when they brought them here.
Yeah.
10 breeding pair or 100 wolves. And put that in the paper. That's all you got to put. Time after time after time.
Let me ask you this, and some of the people in Modoc County in California brought this up at a meeting with the Fish and Game for that area of California, and they said, wait a minute, the wolves that you want to bring in here are not wolves that are from this area. You want to bring in the Northern Greys out of Canada, etc., and say that they're now refurbishing the wolves in Modoc County. Well, they're not the wolves that were there, indigenous for that area originally.
And this gets into another big mess. It is illegal to introduce a species into a state or into anywhere, an endangered species on top of another endangered species.
Good point, yeah.
It is illegal to do that. We in Idaho had that done to us because of the timber wolf, which are gone now. The timber wolves are gone in Idaho. We used to have timber wolves in this state. I have heard them. I've seen packs, but they didn't. They had their place, and they didn't cause problems.
And they couldn't survive with the Northern Grey? Is that what you're saying?
The Northern Greys have killed off all the timber wolves.
Really?
Yes. That's why, in northern Idaho, we used to have the caribou.
Right.
The woodland caribou.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone. We don't have caribou in Idaho anymore. They've been killed by the wolves. And one endangered species was brought in and dropped on top of another one.
How come nobody ever talks about that? How come it's not on the news? How come little old ladies in Philadelphia aren't hearing, they brought in the big bad wolf and it killed off the caribou, which was an endangered species? How come they're not hearing this?
See, that's the last caribou in the United States.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the last ones. And it's like the deal we hammered out with Dan Ash in Salt Lake. He wouldn't even meet with us in Washington, D.C. He wanted to come to Salt Lake. So that's where we met with him. And we couldn't get the Red Wolf. We got everything we wanted in that agreement except the Red Wolf, which is supposedly indigenous to New Mexico and Arizona.
Right.
But that didn't. It doesn't matter. That didn't come about anyway. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain. But I met a guy. His name was Jim Beers. I have his phone number in my pad, and I talk to him all the time. Jim Beers used to work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Washington, D.C., and he's the one that uncovered all of the travesties that went on in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service with the environmental groups.
We have a caller with a question. I'm down to the last 3 minutes of our program for this morning. Go ahead, caller, please. You're on the air.
Yeah, Jack, I was reading. I read every day. You get silly. But they were supposed to do reviews. I can't remember if it was Oregon, Washington, or California. Every 5 years, they're supposed to review to see if they can delist an endangered species that has been put on the list. And the environmentalists and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife have been dragging their feet on the review, the 5-year review, and they've just got such a backlog that they can't even, their attitude is, well, we can't even do it all and catch up. And you see that in the meantime, they're putting a squeeze on us about spiders in the desert or a mouse here or a delta smelt. And you know the story. I'll hang up.
Jack, respond quickly. I've only got a couple of minutes left.
That is totally true. And I want to tell about a guy in Nevada.
All right.
Hage.
Okay, real quick.
The rancher Hage. You knew him.
Yes.
And he took the government to the United States Supreme Court and won a $14 million settlement. I mean, he lost in the first two courts, and he ended up in the United States Supreme Court, and his wife died, and he married Helen Chenoweth from Idaho, and this was years and years ago. But Hage won that $14 million settlement in the United States Supreme Court, and his family, he's gone now, his family has not received one penny, and that has been 24 years ago, I think.
Goodness, really, not one dime.
Every time it's time for a payment from the government on that, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or the BLM brings out something else that says this precludes making payment at this time.
Real quick, Jack, and I've only got 30 seconds here for you to give me an answer. What would you tell our listeners to do? Well, how would you say they should react to their congressmen and their senators? Because this problem is not going away.
This problem is, what I would say is, the environmentalists do not want people on public lands. It's just like landing in the Frank Church Wilderness area. It's like ranchers. They don't want cattle on there. They don't want us on there hunting. And I would, if you agree with some of these issues, I would ask that you talk to your local, state politicians, but talk to the ones in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. Jack, I wish we had more time. Please come back when we got over an hour to talk to you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. A dear, dear friend, not only with this issue, but to my family, and that's Jack Euler. God bless you, sir. And please don't make yourself a stranger. Lunch Bunch is next Thursday, the 16th. You better be there, because I already called Denny's and told him to bring in another truck of food for you. Anyway, we've got to get a weather forecast on here real fast. Life Real Fast, brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. And don't forget the telephone number, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Here's Gina with the weather.
Temperatures are warming up, and that flood advisory is still in effect, and they're probably going to extend that through this weekend, and here's why. We are expecting way warmer temperatures for today. Looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 52. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 38. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be rolling in, expecting a high of 57, overnight low of 42 for Thursday night. Friday, we do have a 40% chance of rain showers in the forecast, high of 58. Could be 60 for Saturday. That's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Gina, thank you. Great weather forecast brought to you by Don Scarrow and the crew at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. This program brought to you by our major sponsor, and I'm very proud to say, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations with a great big spring tire sale. Oh my goodness, all the tires for your driving, your cars, your pickups, your SUVs, Jack's phone's going off. My goodness sakes, we got all kinds of fun things going on here. And of course, with all the great tires, with that spring tire sale, the very best of front end alignment, shocks and struts, and brake service, batteries, all of this and more with all 7 locations serving you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley, the best. Always serving you for your driving safety, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run, and I mean that literally. I'm out the door and headed for town right now for some appointments. We want to remind you we'll be on the air tomorrow morning at 8:06 for the Thursday edition of Zeb at the Ranch. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow morning.